Welcome to day 3, where we are going to talk about what to teach our kids this year, because it can get very overwhelming, or at least that happened to me, and I'm going to avoid the same thing to happen to you.
My name is Alexa, and if you don't know me, I'm a sensory teacher. I'm a mom for a 4-year-old. I do mommy and me classes, I do sensory classes, and I love all things about play. So if that's something that you're interested in, homeschooling your child, come along, subscribe, because I have all the goodness coming for you. So let's get in the video. I'll show you what the goodness we have for today.
So depending on the age of your toddler, there's different things you're going to have to teach them throughout this year. And I made a list. Where's my notebook? Day 1, we talked about supplies. Hopefully you got some of those supplies ready. Today we're going to talk about how we're going to be using those supplies so that you don't just leave them in a cabinet and never see them again because you don't know how to use them. So we're going to be talking about how is it that what we talked about, what I told you to buy, we're going to be using right now. Let me get my handy dandy notebook. Did you watch Blue's Clues when you were little? Man, I used to love that show. I want to talk to you about 4 things that we are going to be focusing on this year. We're going to be talking about motor skills. We're going to be talking about independent play. And we're going to be talking about love for learning. And we're going to talk about the academics. And for the academics part, I'm going to be referencing our learning binders, because this was my solution that I made to make my life easier when it came to the academics part. Let's talk about motor skills. There's 2 motor skills that we are going to be working on. We have the gross motor skills, which are the big hand movements. Remember, we talked about going to the park. And we have the fine motor movements, which are all those little muscles. For gross motor skills, we want them to be comfortable with their bodies. We want them to know that they are capable beings, that they can jump, that they can run, that they can move things. They want them to experiment and to test that fear and to know their limits. And for that, we gotta take them out to nature walks. We gotta let them play. Okay, so we wanna make sure that is also part of your homeschool. So yes, we are going to be focused on the academics, but we wanna make sure that we focus also on those other skills that we need to be focusing on. We want to be talking about then the fine motor skills, and for that it's going to be a lot of the supplies that we got. Some scissors. We're going to be working on scissor skills. We got tongs, which is what you should be working on before the scissors. And scissor skills, it's something that you're going to be working on at 2 years old. So if you have a 1-year-old, you don't need them yet. We got chalk that we're going to be working to create those pencil marks. You can also do it with crayons, but we want to work a little bit on that grip. Once you break the chalk, you're going to know that they immediately are going to go to that grasping skill that we want them to work on without us even teaching how to hold the pencil. We want to work a lot on paint and creativity and teach them how to be creative and explore what they like and choose colors and mix colors and realize what that means. We want them to experience glue. They won't know how much too much glue is unless they experience what too much glue is. So this is the years to explore all that. Once they get to pre-K and the little dab, dab, dab goes a long way, they're going to be able to do that naturally because they understand if I put too much glue, then this is what's going to happen to my painting. So we want to explore glue, we want to explore paint, we want them to be creative, we want them to make colors, and that's why we talk about some of that washable paint so that they can freely express themselves. We talked about Play-Doh. What Play-Doh is going to work on is to strengthening that fine motor skills. There's gonna be rolling circles and rolling snakes and pushing and dabbing and pressing things onto the Play-Doh. All those things are, without us even realizing, are strengthening those fingers. And that's something you can start right at 1 year old. And for fine motor skills, there's a lot of activities like sensory bins and sensory play that you can use, playing with slime and playing with water beads and squishing water beads, all those things that you see them working through their muscles, making bread, making pizza together. That's also fine motor skills. Number 3 is love to learn. So one of the skills that I want you to focus on, and it's a little bit of a concept out there because you can't buy a curriculum about it, is you want your child to love to learn. And the way to do that is for you to enjoy also the activities that you guys do together. So if you're not into messy play and you're not very comfortable with paint, which you should because paint is fun, it is important for their development. But if you're hesitant to start with, maybe paint to begin with, but you love to cook, involve them, because if you love the activities that you place for them, they're gonna create and foster that love. If you create a Play-Doh activity and you're so happy to show it to them and they feel that excitement, they're going to want to love and explore and be comfortable. If you're always saying, no, don't do this, don't do that, don't do here, don't do this, they're not going to enjoy it and they're going to hesitate to try new things. So by trying a new activity, we're teaching them to try new things. And that's important because there's a lot of changes when they go to preschool. There's a lot of things that it's going to be new that they're going to have to try on. When it comes to homeschooling your child, I want you to invite your inner child. Bring those pencils, bring those crayons, and create as you did when you were little. And don't tell me that you are not creative, because everybody's born creative. Creativity is a muscle that needs to be exercised. So just free paint next to them and explore colors and just go back to your childhood and remember all those fun things that you used to like or that you didn't used to like, and you can see them in a new light. Books is a great way to teach that love for learning. If you can read a book, you can learn anything. So go to the libraries, go to bookstores, do trips just for reading. Get new books at the Toddler store. Do activities based from books and create activities and create memories from one single book. Who doesn't want the child that can independently play for hours and hours while we watch Netflix? That's not doable, but there is doable that they do have some time for independent play, and it is something that they do need to learn, and it is something that we are going to teach them how to do it with independent bins, with side-by-side playing. So what is side-by-side playing? Before you can just give a child and say, here, I bought you a Play-Doh bin, go play. They don't know. They're used to you. They're used to guiding the play. They're used to seeing how you interact with them. So before, we're gonna sit together. We're going to do the activity together. You're gonna show them how you use the materials. Same with the sensory bin. Show them how to use the materials. Then they're going to start exploring the materials. And by the way, if you don't know what an independent bin, you need to check yesterday's video. You play together. Then you play next to each other, so they're doing their thing and you're doing your thing using the same activity, and then you slowly move away. First, you can be inside the playroom while they independently play, and if they need help, you're right there. They just feel comfortable that you are there, and as they get used to that activities to do it over and over, you can be in the separate room, you can be in the kitchen, and eventually they'll feel confident enough, independent enough to do it on their own. Other ways that you can encourage independent activities are when it comes to choosing what to wear. This is kind of like where the whole Montessori concept comes to play. You want to have your house accessible so that they can make their own choices and be independent in a safe way. So maybe you have 3 shirts on a drawer that they can easily access, and when it's time to get dressed, they can go in and they can choose what to wear. Maybe you're choosing 2 shirts. Whatever shirt that you want them to wear that day, those 2 options, you don't care, have them make the choice. When it comes to dinner time, can they reach their own water bottle that you have created for them? When it comes to giving a bath, can they brush their own hair? Do they have a brush nearby? So you want to have little things throughout the day that they can independently help themselves. Do you have a snack station? A snack station, it's a great idea. It's a basket or a tray or something in the kitchen that if they're hungry, they can go and access. Doesn't mean you put the whole groceries in there. You just put whatever snacks for the day so they can go in and they make their selection. Things like finding their shoes before we're going out. So if you always put your shoes by the door and it's time to go, they can go ahead and find their shoes. It's time for snack time, getting that lunchbox ready. And if you don't have a lunchbox yet, if you're not used to eating out of a lunchbox, that's something I want you to add to your list, both for shopping and for doing this year. I want you to get used to going to a park and sitting down and transitioning from being at the activity that you're doing into sitting down and having a snack. I do it in my classes where once we're finished with the activity, we sit down and we have a snack. And as they have a snack, I read a story. Why? Because by the time they get to pre-K, they understand the concept of transitions, that one thing ends and then something else is going to happen and the fun is over, but now we're doing something else. And the whole concept of sitting together with our friends to eat a snack. We're going for the play date at the park. Maybe you should sit down for a little bit and have a snack together. Maybe one of you can read a book, or maybe you don't even have to read a book, but they are great listeners when they're eating. So if you want to have some reading time, snack, it's a great idea. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of academics. For that, I'm going to get my handy dandy stuff. On each of the binders, 1, 2, or 3, they're by age, I have a checklist, or not a checklist, a guide that's called Pre-K Readiness Goals by age. And these are the concepts, the core concepts that I like to work on by age. So for age 1, you are going to be working only on primary colors. You're not going to work on the whole colors of the rainbow. That you're going to do when you are 2. Because when you are 3, they should know their colors. But there are 3-year-olds that don't know their colors yet. That's why you see a lot of activities out there that are aimed for pre-K, but they're actually focused on colors and shapes, is because not everybody goes at the Alexa rhythm. But the Alexa rhythm breaks down what you need to learn in very small chunks. I'm gonna go high level. If you wanna download the checklist for each specific age, put it below. You can get this little checklist. If you want the activities to go along with it, we do have the learning binders, which is 5 minutes open and play. They are our best sellers, our favorites. The kids love it. They will like rip it out of your hands, and don't take my word for it. I have tons of videos about kids actually doing it. They are Velcro activities. Year 1, it's all about that vocabulary. It's all about getting them to talk, because when you go to the pediatrician, a 2-year-old, the first thing they're gonna ask you is, how many words does your child say? You need to have at least 50 words. And I do have a checklist for the 50 words as well. To focus a lot on that vocabulary, and we're gonna do it through rhymes. We're gonna do it a lot through animal sounds. We're gonna do a lot with vocabulary of everyday use and body parts. They need to know at least 6 body parts, lots of rhymes. And for math, we want to focus on counting from 1 to 5. That's it. That's why a lot of the songs is 5 little dogs, 5 little frogs, 5 little monkeys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what you want to work on. For the full guide for the 1-year-old, just click on the link below. Let's talk about the 2s. So for the academics, we want them to start recognizing their names and the first letters of their name. It's a way to kind of introduce that. We're not gonna go drill down the ABCs. At this age, we're just getting familiar. There is such a thing as letters out there. We wanna go full on with colors, so the whole colors of the rainbow. We wanna talk about shapes, so we're not doing shapes at 1. We're starting shapes at least at 2-year-old. Start with the basics, the squares, the circles, the triangles, the stars, the hearts. And once they can match it, they can name it, and they can say it, you can move on to bigger and better shapes like the oval and the pentagon. We want them to count until 10. So we're going to be adding those scissor skills. We want to talk about same and different, what things look the same, what things look different, because they're gonna need that later on at 3 to recognize different letters. We want them to talk about opposites, so nighttime and daytime, or hot and cold, and you can do lots of experiments to explore all of those concepts. We want them to recognize emotions, and there's a big world of emotions. Terrible twos is a real thing, and we want them to identify what a sad face looks like, what a surprised face looks like, what is tired, because at this point they don't really know all of the ranges. Maybe they know happy and sad and that's about it, but there's all these different ranges that we can explore. And for my threes, this is where we're really digging into number recognition and letter recognition. And I started first doing number recognition because I think was easier than letter recognition. We want them to recognize their name. I'm trying to look for my goals. We want them to recognize the numbers, recognize their name, recognize some of the letters. Uppercase, I always start with uppercase, it's easier. Lowercase, they're very similar to each other, so for me it was a little harder to explain than if I started with just the uppercase and then told them each uppercase had a baby and the baby, goes along, and that's been working really well for me. Math, sort by size, count until 30, recognize patterns, and that was one of my favorite things to teach. Making it like, look at all these patterns from nature. Such a fun little concept. You want them to start talking about the weather and recognize it. It's not about learning the weather song. The weather, what's the weather? It's about going outside the window and be like, hey, that's raining? Yes, it's raining because the water is coming down. The clouds are gray. So really understanding the concept, when it's hot outside, when it's cold outside. How do we dress when it's raining, right? Like, I love this one, like, little people. So when it's like, how do we dress when it's raining? Oh, we put the raincoat. It's actually going outside in the rain and feeling the rain and having to put that raincoat on, right? And we want to talk about life cycles, the frog cycle and the butterfly cycle. All of these activities, you can do 5-minute play activities with the binders as a complement to what you're doing with your everyday life and the activities that you do and the lesson plans that you create or you buy. So tomorrow we'll talk about those activities and those lesson plans, but for now you know how to use those from our supply on Monday, and now a little bit of those concepts. So if you want to get your checklist of what are the concepts that we are going to be talking this year, depending on your child's age, I'll leave you the link below for your free download. And that's all for today. And I'll see you tomorrow for our next video. Bye bye.